In your book, you help people learn how to live with God. Talk about some of the ways that you help people enrich their relationship with Him.
Yeah, I think probably the best place to start, Lee, is with kind of an axiom you find throughout our book. It's kind of peppered all throughout, and it's this phrase: the Christian life is about being with God who's always with you. And so in Beloved Dust, we're really kind of taking seriously this charge we read in the New Testament to pray without ceasing. We actually take that seriously. We actually believe that's the call of the Christian life. But what we believe then that means is that prayer isn't just kind of this formal ritual or even necessarily just a spiritual discipline or practice, but it's actually our means of being with God. That prayer doesn't necessarily always involve petitions or questions and requests, but that it's a posture of being open, of being with, of attending to this relationship, of being with the one who's always with us in relationship. And so for us, that kind of cashes itself out into all kinds of different practical implications. And so in the book, you'll find that we explore what does it mean to experience dryness and desolation then sometimes in our relationship with God, when the one who's always with us doesn't feel like he's with us. Well, how do we respond to that? I think this is a question many Christians face presently in their walk, or they've experienced it in their past and they've never had a good answer with it. They don't know how to navigate it. Questions about what about silence in prayer? When I feel like I just don't have words to speak, how do I enter into that time? Or when I feel like I'm not hearing from God, how do I listen properly and well? And maybe lastly, what would it look like to, again, in kind of the practical realities of my life, as I'm sitting at my cubicle at work, as I'm sitting on the freeway, as I'm playing with my 2-year-old on the ground with a toy, what does it mean to be with God there? To actually be attending to relationship with Him, even as I'm leaning into other callings in my life. And so the hope is that this kind of lofty idea of being with God who's always with you doesn't just ratchet up that sense of guilt that I'm not doing it, or make the goal feel even more unattainable. But the hope is we're maintaining this lofty goal, but we're bringing it all the way down onto the ground for people, into the practical experience of what that's like, the texture of that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think one of the reasons why it's so difficult, to be honest, is that we have these expectations. Oh, I'm a Christian. The Christian life, therefore, looks like this. And usually that is wrapped up in all sorts of cultural things. You know, it means my life just gets better, right? It means I should be happier. It means life should go the way I want. There's all these things that we have. We never verbalize them probably, but they're kind of floating underneath the surface. And then things stop going the way we want. The Christian life is incredibly dry. I open my Bible, I was like, I just don't care. I'm at church and I'm bored. You know, all these things are coming up. The question is, what do we do? And I think the problem is that there's all these temptations there. There's temptations in church to put a smile on my face and to at least pretend like it's going the way I want it, because that must be what's right? And we look around and everyone's smiling, so we assume, well, everyone must get something that I don't, you know, and the problem is everyone's probably bored and smiling, right? And so there's all these temptations to turn to moralism. Well, I guess the Christian life's just about being a good person, and so I just try hard to be good. I try hard to generate a life I think God would like. There's all these kind of temptations there, and the problem is, in relationship, what we're doing here is we're actually hiding, just like Adam and Eve in the garden. God is calling us to Himself, and we're creating these. We're saying, look at this, God. Look, oh, I'm happy. Look, I'll write a check. We're doing all these things, and what we're really saying is, you stay back, you stay there. I'll do these things to make you happy. Let me generate the life I want. And the whole time, God is calling us to Himself, and oftentimes calling us to Himself just like He called His Son to Himself in the desert, through the cross, through these things that don't feel like God is present here. But this is exactly where God is. And so what we want to do is we want to call people into that in the day-to-day. What does it mean to be with God who's always with you here? And what does that feel like? How do you navigate that? What does that look like?
And I think the other thing that maybe to add to that is that I think as folks lean into the book, what they'll discover is some of the questions we're trying to answer, some of the things we're exploring, these may already be questions kind of on their lips in prayer. There may be questions they're finding themselves asking of other Christians or of their pastor. And so hopefully we're putting some thoughtful answers to those. But also I think what they'll find is that there may be some questions and some answers that are unearthed that are kind of deep in the heart, that are sitting down there that they haven't quite put words to yet. But our hope is that maybe we can speak their heart a bit, that there's some deeper questions behind the surface level questions that really are driving some of their fears or some of their anxieties or some of their hang-ups about life with God in the day-to-day. And so our hope is to do due diligence, to answer those questions on the surface and to treat them with dignity and importance, but also to maybe peel back the layers and help people consider some of the deeper questions of the heart about their beliefs, about their desires, about relationship with God.